In my past life, my husband's elder brother died suddenly. My husband went home for the funeral, but a month later, news came that his sister-in-law was pregnant. I didn't learn that the child was my husband's until I was on my deathbed. I never expected heaven to show mercy. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my brother-in-law died. Honey, why aren't you saying anything? If you're too busy, I'll just head back on my own. The sound of Chen Kailai's voice snapped me out of my memories, sending a shiver down my spine. Staring at my familiar workstation and the date on the computer screen, the belated realization finally hit me. I had been reborn. It was all too unbelievable, my mind in turmoil. I hung up the phone and, a moment later, pinched myself just to be sure. The pain arrived in tandem with the ringing of the phone. Only then was I finally convinced I had truly come back from the dead. Not only that, I had been reborn on the very day my husband's elder brother passed away. Staring at the word husband on the screen, I took several deep breaths before finally pressing the answer button. 1111, what's wrong? It's fine, I just accidentally hit the end call button. When are you heading back? I'll go with you. It's the end of the year. The salon is packed with customers. Are you sure you can get away? Chen Kailai's voice didn't sound the least bit displeased. In fact, he seemed rather happy. In my past life, I didn't go back because of the busy season. This time, I made a different choice. I'm going to see for myself how they dare carry on right under my nose. Once I confirmed I could go back with him, he even showed up early at the salon entrance to pick me up after work. After I got in the car, he reached out and took my hand, his eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you, honey. I know this is hard for you. My own brother-in-law passed away. How could I not go? It's no trouble at all. Work can never be more important than family. I subtly withdrew my hand under the pretense of fastening my seatbelt. I studied Chen Kailai's expression carefully and realized that, at this moment, his feelings toward me didn't seem insincere. This only deepened my confusion. If he truly loved me, how could he have had a child with my sister-in-law? The drive back was a nightmare of traffic. By the time we finally got home, the funeral parlor had already been set up. My mother-in-law, who never liked me and blamed me for luring her son to the city, was as cold and disapproving as ever. Even my sister-in-law, who had always been kind to me, had grown distant. I don't know if my knowledge of the previous life's outcome made me jump to conclusions, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hostile and didn't welcome my presence. Fortunately, up until now, Chen Kailai has been incredibly attentive and caring towards me, looking after every little detail. His eyes are always filled with gratitude. Men care deeply about saving face. The fact that I didn't get along with my mother-in-law before had made my husband the subject of gossip back in his hometown. On the way back, he told me that my coming with him this time would definitely shut up those people who were just waiting to see a spectacle. That's why he's been even better to me than before. I've also noticed that although my sister-in-law often sneaks glances at him, he has never once looked her way. It seems there's nothing out of the ordinary. But in my past life, I heard it clearly. That child said he was my husband's biological son, and back in the countryside, everyone knew about the relationship between my husband, Chen Kailai, and his mother. My memory can't be wrong. Recalling the pain from that past life, my stomach even aches faintly from the psychological distress. Kailai, you and Jiangxi have been married for 3 years now, right? How come you're still not planning to have a child? Chen Kailai's great-aunt cut off my train of thought, smiling at me. She added, Kai Xian passed so suddenly, but at least he left a son. Look at you too, auntie, you must be tired and confused. What nonsense are you talking? Our Kailai is perfectly healthy. Before I could say a word, my mother-in-law snapped back a reply, but then, she turned her gaze to me. And you're already in your 30s and still no child. Be careful. In a few years people will laugh at you for being an old hen trying to lay an egg. Mom, what are you saying? If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Once again, before I could even get a word out, Chen Kailai jumped in and shot back on my behalf. The wake ended on a sour note. And Chen Kailai insisted on taking me back to my room. I insisted on staying with him. For 3 whole days, I followed him everywhere. The only time I didn't was when he went to the cemetery to check on his older brother's grave. Even when he used the restroom, I kept a watchful eye from a distance. I even had my camera ready at all times, half expecting something to happen. But strangely enough, from the burial all the way through our drive back home, I didn't catch him and my sister-in-law in any sort of compromising situation. It even made me wonder if my husband's kindness towards that child in his past life was simply because the boy was his own brother's son. It doesn't quite add up, how he could show such blatant favoritism, completely neglecting his elder brother's first child, yet being unbelievably good to the second one. But seeing how gentle and attentive he was, I chose to believe the former explanation. As for that child pushing me down the stairs, I simply told myself it was because I was pregnant. The child felt threatened and acted out on purpose, but along the way, I had a dream. In the dream, my husband Chen Kailai, who was outside the emergency room, dragged Chen Gong, the one who pushed me down the stairs in my past life, into a stairwell corner. I thought he was going to teach that kid a lesson, but when I crept closer, what I heard was him asking the kid for details, whether anyone had seen him push me down the stairs. He even coached the kid, if I survived, he should insist that I had tripped, and that he was only trying to catch me but failed. After all, there were no security cameras in the stairwell. The kid kept nodding, clearly terrified. Chen Kailai, his heart aching, pulled the boy into a tight embrace. "Don't be scared, sweetie, once she's gone, her salon, everything she has, it will all belong to the three of us." Trembling with rage, I lunged forward, only to hear Chen Kailai's startled cry. I jolted awake from the dream to find my own hands wrapped around Chen Kailai's throat. Chen Kailai was gripping the steering wheel for dear life, nearly crashing into the guardrail. I quickly let go, a wave of belated fear washing over me. Chen Kailai was even more shaken. He swallowed hard a few times before asking in a hoarse voice, "Honey, what did you dream about? You're so worked up." "I dreamed you were having an affair." I was ready to launch into it, but Chen Kailai just chuckled in disbelief. "How could I, with such a beautiful and capable wife? There's no way I'd ever cheat." There wasn't a trace of guilt or a single flaw in his demeanor. Could it be that my rebirth into this life has changed something? In that dazed moment, I even felt like I was having a mental breakdown. For several days after returning, I still couldn't detect the slightest flaw in Chen Kailai. I once waited until he was asleep and secretly checked his phone, only to find messages from my mother-in-law calling me a barren hen. As for him and his elder brother's wife, they weren't even connected as friends. My suspicions left me restless, unable to eat or sleep properly, even at the salon. My mind was elsewhere. Fortunately, with enough staff hired to manage things, I gave my instructions and headed home early. When I saw the clothes Chen Kailai had taken off in the laundry room, I finally pushed my doubts aside, gathered them up, and tossed them into the washing machine. But just as I tossed the item in, I caught a glimpse of a strand of hair peeking out from the collar of Chen Kailai's sweater. I initially thought it was Chen Kailai's, but upon pulling it out, I realized the hair was long, jet black, and slightly wavy. Unlike my own, which is medium length, straight, and brown. It suddenly hit me, when we first met. I had noticed how my sister-in-law's hair shone with a deep, glossy black. I'd even asked if she dyed it, to which she proudly replied it was natural. My palms went numb, and I felt a tightness in my chest, making it hard to breathe. Just as I had calmed down and stood up to put the hair away, I heard the sound of a phone vibrating from the cabinet beneath the sink. The phone was hidden deep behind a pile of clutter in the cabinet, and it took me a great deal of effort to retrieve it. There were over a dozen messages in a row on WeChat, and the contact name was unmistakably sister-in-law. Out of habit, I entered the password Chen Kailai often used, my birthday, and to my surprise, it actually unlocked. After reading the chat history, I was at a complete loss for words to describe how I felt in that moment. Chen Kailai and his sister-in-law, Wu Xuanli, had actually been carrying on their affair right under my nose, and the location, of all places, was the woods behind my eldest brother-in-law's grave. I know this because the spot was chosen by my mother-in-law. It was only after reading his chat history with Wu Xuanli that I noticed another person in the conversation interface. It was shockingly my mother-in-law. And the whole affair between my husband Chen Kailai and his sister-in-law was also masterminded by her. Even this phone was a hasty backup purchase Chen Kailai made because she was so relentlessly persistent. 3 days before we were set to leave, My mother-in-law told my husband that his elder brother's health was failing and that he should be prepared to carry on both family lines. At first, Chen Kailai seemed like a decent man, repeatedly swearing up and down that he would never do anything to betray me. The argument with my mother-in-law dragged on. It wasn't until 3 days after we arrived in our hometown, the night before my elder brother-in-law's funeral, that Chen Kailai finally caved. He gave in under her relentless pressure, a mix of threats, promises, and sheer persistence. While I was dozing off, on the day of the funeral, under the guise of the local custom of offering money to mountain spirits so they wouldn't snatch the deceased's soul, the two of them slipped into the woods behind the grave and consummated their relationship. And now, Chen Kailai's sister-in-law clearly has no intention of stopping here. As I was reading the chat history, the messages kept pouring in. Kailai, ever since you left, I've been going to sit in the woods every day, reminiscing about the sweetness of that day we shared. Kailai, don't you worry, I'll never be a burden to you, I'll just wait for you quietly at home. Lai, my darling, but I simply can't help myself, I miss you every single night. The messages grew increasingly explicit, suppressing my rising anger. I took screenshots of all the chat history and marked them as unread, remembering how meticulous Chen Kailai always was. I carefully placed the phone back under the pile of clutter. I pulled his clothes, which he hadn't even had a chance to add water to, out of the washing machine and returned them to their original spot. In a daze, I left the house and sat by the sea for a long, long time. It wasn't until Chen Kai called that I realized. I had been sitting there, lost in thought, until dusk. Honey, dinner's ready. Why aren't you home from work yet? We were a bit busy with customers today. I'm on my way. I took a deep breath. It wasn't the right time to burn bridges just yet. It's incredibly difficult to untangle the joint assets between Chen Kailai and me, especially the mortgage, since I have one bank card not linked to my phone, to make the monthly payment. I either have to withdraw cash and give it to Chen Kailai for him to deposit and pay from his own account, or, when I'm swamped, I just hand him the card directly and let him go withdraw the money himself. All in all, it adds up to about 300,000. There's also the apartment my parents gave me as a dowry, which has both my name and Chen Kai's on the deed, so, if I want to reclaim everything that's rightfully mine, getting a divorce alone won't be enough. What's more, my death in my past life might not have been an accident at all, but a carefully plotted scheme. I can't go into this battle unprepared, but when it comes to Chen Kailai, I know him better than anyone. We dated for 4 years and have been married for 7. He's far too cautious, finding a weak spot in his armor is going to be tough. That leaves only his sister-in-law, Wu Xuanli, back at home, watching Chen Kailai bustling about. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of admiration for him. After all that happened, he still had the nerve to act completely unruffled. He pretended nothing was wrong, treating me with the same meticulous care and concern as always. And then he just came right out and suggested we have a child. 11. We've been married for 3 years now, my job is stable, and your career at the salon is really taking off. Don't you think it's time we considered having a baby? My hand holding the chopsticks paused. Why bring this up all of a sudden? Well, I heard from my female colleagues at work that women over 35 are considered to be of advanced maternal age. The risks during pregnancy are higher, and I'm worried. Oh. So you're saying I'm too old now? I pretended to be upset, and Chen Kailai, as expected, gave in and started sweet-talking me. My feelings are all mixed up. It's almost the end of the year, and the salon is already swamped. Let's talk about it after the new year. Alright, whatever you say, dear. My wife's word is law. If I remember correctly, the news of Wu Xuanli's pregnancy will be spreading in a matter of days. It's been over half a month since we got back. In my past life, it was only about 2 weeks after we arrived that news broke of Wu Xuanli's pregnancy. I figured the timing wasn't that tight, so I didn't dwell on it. But thinking about it now, if she had regular cycles and was highly fertile, it's not entirely impossible, after all. You can find out if you're pregnant just 8 to 10 days after having sex, but this time, I wanted Wu Xuanli to say it to my face. As a woman myself, I understand a woman's jealousy all too well. So, after flaunting my relationship on social media for 7 days straight, I played my trump card. It was just the other day when I finally gave in after Chen Kailai brought up having kids again in our chat. He's already daydreaming about whether we'll have a boy or a girl. He said he'd love a daughter. And that she'd be just as beautiful as me. I took a screenshot of that message and posted it to my social media feed. Caption: he actually wants a daughter to share his affection. Feeling a little jealous over here. What's that about? Fighting back a wave of disgust. I set my social media post to be visible only to my sister-in-law, Wu Xuanli. Sure enough, a message from Wu Xuanli popped up not long after. Hey 1111, are you guys thinking about having a baby? Yeah. Mom's been on our case about it non-stop. I figured we're at the right age and our finances are stable, so it seems like a good time for one. After I sent that message, the typing indicator on their end just kept going and going. A long while later, my sister-in-law's lengthy reply finally came through. 1111, dear, it's really best if we women make our own decisions. There are plenty of dink couples these days, and it's perfectly fine not to have kids. You know what your mother-in-law is like. Don't take her words to heart. Speaking from experience, giving birth is like walking through the valley of the shadow of death. You're not getting any younger, so there's no need to take such a risk. If you're worried about the future, well, there's always Chen Qiong. It's only right that he should take care of your parents in their old age. I let out a cold laugh at Wu Xuanli's reply, silently typed out a message, and sent it over. Sis. It's not that I'm insisting, it's Chen Kai. You have no idea. He's been acting like a man possessed every night lately, all to get me pregnant as soon as possible. After I sent that, there was a long silence on the other end. It lasted so long I thought she wouldn't reply, but then she suddenly sent a message. Since you two are so set on it, I'll bring you an old hen tomorrow to help build up your strength. Get your body nourished, and you'll have more energy for the delivery later. Thanks, sis. You're always so good to us. I turned off my phone with a cold laugh, deciding not to tell Chen Kailai about Wu Xuanli's impending visit. I figured Wu Xuanli wouldn't mention it either. Given Chen Kailai's cautious nature, he'd never have allowed her to come if he knew. For now, all I could do was wait. Some things are just easier to expose when they're out in the open, but before that, I still have things to do. After testing the waters these past few days, I've confirmed something. It's sickening to admit, but I have to acknowledge that I still occupy a significant place in Chen Kailai's heart. I'll use that significant standing to my advantage. Using a mix of coaxing and deception, I made up an excuse about being worried Chen Kailai would cheat on me after I got pregnant, and managed to have his name removed from the property deed of my parents' apartment. The process was a bit rocky, but thankfully, he didn't suspect a thing. He even bought me a bag worth tens of thousands the next day. Just to put my mind at ease, I posted it on my social media right away, with the caption, "Hubby's really pulling out all the stops to get me to have his baby." The photo I posted also included the property deed. This post is still set to be visible only to my sister-in-law, Wu Xuanli. The reason I'm posting this is that it's been a whole week since Wu Xuanli said she would come, and she still hasn't shown up. I suspect something must have come up, just as I expected. Not even 10 minutes after I posted on my social media, a message from Wu Xuanli popped up. Hey 1111, Qiang caught a cold a couple of days ago, so I didn't get a chance to bring you the chicken. I'll bring it over tomorrow. Also, Mom is coming to stay for a few days. I tried to talk her out of it, but she wouldn't listen. You'd better be prepared. If I didn't know what had happened between her and Chen Kailai, I might have actually thought I'd gotten lucky with a great sister-in-law. So, my mother-in-law, the one who started all this, is coming too. Even better, with her here, I won't have any trouble finding a weak spot. The next day, I specifically asked my business partner for a day off and cleaned out the 2 guest rooms at home. I never told Chen Kailai that I had taken the day off. Seizing the chance while he was at work, I snuck a peek at his phone, which he had hidden in the bathroom cabinet. Sure enough, there were no messages from my mother-in-law or Wu Xuanli about them coming to visit. The only message was from Wu Xuanli the day before, asking Chen Kailai if we were really trying for a baby. I even attached a screenshot of my WeChat Moments post. Luckily, Chen Kailai didn't get a chance to see it. If he had seen the message, he would have quickly figured out that my WeChat Moments were visible only to Wu Xuanli. I hurriedly deleted the message and put the phone back where it was. I'd been busy all morning and was just about to order myself some takeout when I heard a commotion at the door. I quickly turned on the doorbell camera. On the screen, I saw Wu Xuanli and her mother-in-law, along with Chen Qiong and all their luggage, being blocked at the elevator entrance by Chen Kailai. He seemed to have just arrived himself, having run up the stairs, and was drenched in sweat. I checked the replay, and my mother-in-law was delighted. Kailai, you silly boy. Is this any way to welcome your mother? Look at you, you're drenched in sweat. She had just reached out to wipe Chen Kailai's forehead, but her hand was caught before it could touch his head. Mom, why didn't you tell me you were coming? We wanted to surprise you, Wu Xuanli replied, her cheeks flushing pink. Chen Kailai didn't even look at them. He pressed the elevator button and ushered them out, saying, I'll take you to a hotel first. What hotel? Isn't there room for us in your 3-bedroom apartment? Besides, you and your sister-in-law. Mom, are you trying to drive me to my grave? Chen Kailai suddenly raised his voice in a sharp rebuke. Outside the door, there was a sudden, heavy silence. Seeing this, I picked up the trash bag by the door and pulled it open. Feigning surprise, I said, Mom, what are you doing here? At this critical moment, no one paid any attention to my words. Instead, Chen Kailai's eyes widened in shock, and he began to stammer. Wife, what are you doing home? I wasn't feeling well this morning, so I took the day off. What was wrong? Chen Kailai rushed over with a look of concern, grabbing at my arm. With a complicated expression, I sidestepped his attempt to support me by pretending to put away some trash. It's nothing, really. I just had a bit of an upset stomach from breakfast. I took some medicine when I got home and I'm fine now. I even tidied up the house while I was at it. I didn't expect Mom, sister-in-law, and Qiang to drop by. Perfect timing. Please, come on in. I welcomed the whole family inside with great delight. Chen Kailai seemed to hesitate, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he just followed behind me, as soon as she stepped inside. Sister-in-law Wu Xuanli looked around with an unmistakable air of envy. Kailai, your place is really lovely. What's wrong with the little villa back home? Chen Kailai's tone was distant and cold, causing his sister-in-law's eyes to well up with tears instantly. That's not what I meant. I watched the scene unfold with a cold eye, and when it seemed about right, I reached out and tugged on Chen Kailai's sleeve. All right, that's enough. Is that any way to speak to your sister-in-law? I'll go buy groceries and cook for us. I'll go with you. What do you mean, go with me? Look at you, you're drenched in sweat, and it's my fault, really. Sister-in-law told me earlier they were coming to bring me a stewing hen. I was so busy I forgot to mention it to you, but the way you're acting, it's as if you think I'm some petty person who can't stand having your mother and sister-in-law and her son around. I pretended to be angry, and Chen Kailai quickly explained. That's not what I meant. I'm just worried Mom might say something she doesn't mean. A son forgets his mother once he gets a wife. Who knows what the future holds? Honey, why don't you go buy the groceries first, and I'll take care of preparing the chicken. Looking flustered, Chen Kailai cut his mother off, ushering me out the door while helping me with my coat and shoes. After all that hustle, he sent me another 2 grand. It was obvious. No thought needed. He was afraid his mom would spill the beans. Not that I couldn't hear it, though. After all, I haven't just been spending this time to see the messages Wu Xuanli sent him on his phone. Once I got in the elevator, I pulled up the surveillance feed on my phone. Sure enough, Chen Kailai was arguing with her mother-in-law. Wu Xuanli stood to the side, tears welling up in her eyes with a look of grievance. Chen Qiong sat curled in the corner of the sofa, picking at his nails. Utterly inconspicuous, I heard it all the way down to the underground garage. Suddenly, it all felt a bit tiresome, cheating, and still putting on an act of deep affection. If it weren't for that past life dream, I might have actually believed Chen Kailai. Just as I was finding the bickering tiresome and about to turn off my phone, Wu Xuanli beside me suddenly spoke up. Kailai, I'm pregnant. The moment those words were spoken, the room fell so silent you could hear a pin drop. Even Chen Qiong stopped picking at his fingernails, but he still just sat there, propping his head up. Even my mother-in-law looked stunned, as if she was just finding out too. Kai Xian's, my mother-in-law's voice was weak, as if even she couldn't believe her own gravely ill eldest son was capable of such a thing. And in my past life, I was foolish enough to actually believe it. It was Kailai. That's a lie. Chen Kailai, who had been frozen in shock, almost jumped up to cover Wu Xuanli's mouth upon hearing that. Qiang, You go to the bedroom first. Chen Kailai hesitated, on the verge of speaking, but Wu Xuanli and her mother-in-law made no move to stop him. I sighed as I watched the child on the monitor. His head hung so low he seemed like a walking corpse. In his past life, his dull and honest nature made him unpopular. Right after junior high, Wu Xuanli pulled him out of school to work. Every penny he earned went to buying treats and toys for his younger brother. What a pitiful soul. But compared to me, I'm the more wretched one. After all, he didn't lose his life like I did. The moment the bedroom door slammed shut, Chen Kailai's voice trembled as he roared, "You and I, it was only 2 weeks ago. How dare you claim the child is mine? I swear, Kailai, if you don't believe me, we can do a blood test after the baby is born. If the child isn't yours, I'll jump off the hospital roof." Her eyes were red-rimmed, her tone resolute, yet she managed to look utterly pitiful. Then again, her son is older, but that's just because he married young. He's not much older than I am now, but strangely, Chen Kailai showed not a shred of pity. Instead, he made a cold-hearted decision. "I'm taking you to get it taken care of now." As he spoke, he moved to grab Wu Xuanli. In a panic, she cried out, "Mom, Mom, this is your own grandson. Are you just going to stand there and watch him get beaten? Kailai, how about this? Let Xuanli keep the child, it'll be someone to rely on in the future. And as for what I said before about you and Xuanli acting as husband and wife once a year, let's just forget about that, just make sure you don't shortchange them." The mother and child, when it comes to money, as the mother-in-law finished speaking, Wu Xuanli's face was a picture of disbelief, her eyes even betraying a hint of regret. It was Chen Kailai who finally let go. After a long pause, he nodded. "All right, but Jiangxi must never know about this. Just say the child is my older brother's. Actually, I've been thinking, son, since you and Jiangxi don't have any children anyway, maybe it's for the best. We'll forget about the dowry we gave to her family. We'll just keep the apartment her parents gave you too, and this one. Life goes on with anyone, doesn't it? Besides, Xuanli is a decent, simple girl, much more down-to-earth than that Jiangxi, who's always running around with her beauty salon. Mom, if you ever say something like that again, don't blame me for acting like I don't have a mother. I have no idea what the hell Chen Kailai is scheming. I'm even starting to suspect he might have found the surveillance. But then again, if he really had found it, he wouldn't have talked about the child in front of the cameras and Wu Xuanli and the others. I just can't wrap my head around it. My mother-in-law couldn't make sense of it either. In the end, she was so upset she plopped down on the sofa, crying and wailing. But by the time I got back from grocery shopping, the whole family was acting as if nothing had happened. Wu Xuanli was still eating when she cheerfully told me she was pregnant with her brother-in-law's child, already 1 month along. Hearing this, I feigned delight and said, "Perfect timing. I know someone in the obstetrics department at the provincial hospital. I'll take you for a checkup tomorrow." After I spoke, the sound of chewing at the table grew quieter. Chen Kailai swallowed and said, "That won't be necessary. My wife and the others are heading back tomorrow. She'll get checked and registered at the county hospital for a smooth pregnancy." All right then, I pretended to give in and kept piling food onto Chen Kailai's plate with my suggestive words. Wu Xuanli's grip on her chopsticks visibly tightened. "I'm 36 this year, which already makes me an advanced maternal age case. I'm a bit scared to give birth at the county hospital. Wouldn't it be better to register at the provincial hospital instead?" As Wu Xuanli said this, the food Chen Kailai was serving me slipped from his chopsticks and fell onto the table. Before he could even get a word out, I quickly chimed in. "All right then, I'll get in touch with my friend." As I spoke, I pulled out my phone, only for Chen Kailai to snatch it away. "Sis-in-law, the county hospital is actually quite good these days. Besides, Qiang is transitioning to middle school this year and needs guidance. It's not good for you to be so far away." I didn't miss the threatening look in Chen Kailai's eyes. In the end, it was Wu Xuanli who gave in. But I wasn't about to let it go that easily. So, 2 months later, Wu Xuanli showed up at my door again. This time, she came while I was supposedly away on a business trip for training. Of course, this was all part of my plan. The moment the door opened, she threw herself into Chen Kailai's arms and captured his lips in a kiss. Chen Kailai stumbled backward, his movements hampered by the fear of hurting her stomach. Seizing the opportunity, Wu Xuanli pushed Chen Kailai down onto the sofa. Kailai, I've made up my mind, just this once. After this, I'll get rid of the baby and I'll never bother you again. Chen Kailai's movements faltered. In the end, he was pushed into the bedroom by Wu Xuanli, and I had been waiting for this exact moment, with brick-and-mortar stores struggling these past 2 years. Besides minding the shop, I've also been live-streaming tutorials on eyebrow shaping and makeup application. I've actually built up quite a fanbase. The moment I went live, a whole bunch of people gathered around, asking what makeup look I was teaching today. I shook my head with a smile. No makeup tutorial today. Today is my 4th wedding anniversary with my husband. I've been planning this for a long time, and I've been waiting for you all to witness our romantic 4th year together. Us too. A cheer erupted from the back seat. That's right, I went on a business trip. Right on our 4th anniversary, and I even made a point of posting about it on my social media. For the past 2 months, Wu Xuanli has been constantly messaging Chen Kailai's secret phone. I never realized she was truly, madly in love with him. So head over heels that a single day apart was agony, even though Chen Kailai never replied to a single one of her messages. Yet, she still took great delight in reminiscing about the past, hoping to rekindle the old flame. So, I was certain she wouldn't let this opportunity slip by. I went ahead and arranged for our mutual friend Chen Kailai, along with the livestream audience, to bear witness, the moment I gingerly pushed the door open. From the bedroom came Wu Xuanli's muffled, high-pitched moans, along with Chen Kailai's guttural, almost feral roars of release. No wonder, ever since my brother-in-law's funeral, I've been taking pills to induce my period, with it coming so frequently, even when I was actually clean. Chen Kailai wouldn't have known, so he's gone without for over 3 months now. Who knows, if I barge in like this, he might get so scared he can't perform ever again, and then he'd blame me for it. Just as I was hesitating, my friend behind me gave me a shove. I turned around and saw her face had turned pale. She said to me cautiously, "Maybe we shouldn't go in." As soon as she finished speaking, I pretended to have just snapped out of it, raised my phone, and hurried forward. They had no choice but to follow, and so, the whole group ended up gathered in a small crowd outside the bedroom door. At that moment, Wu Xuanli was too absorbed in her moaning, and Chen Kailai was too lost in the act. After we'd watched the live show for a bit, it was the male friend behind us who couldn't take it anymore and cleared his throat to get their attention. Chen Kailai flinched in shock. When he turned and saw us, he scrambled to get up in a panic, but in their excitement, they got stuck, and the live stream was shut down. A friend called an ambulance for them. As the medical staff wrapped them in a sheet to carry them out, Chen Kailai still tried to reach out and grab me. "Honey, I'm not." He wanted to explain, but after running through everything in his head, he probably couldn't figure out what to say. I wiped away my tears and turned to leave. I turned off my phone and paid to boost every video clip of Chen Kailai and his sister-in-law's live event. For a moment, even the authorities couldn't act fast enough to take it down. Someone from the same village saw it online and exposed their relationship. The reposts went wild, even briefly trending on Weibo. I became the object of everyone's pity. Opportunists even went to Chen Kailai's hometown to dig for gossip. As luck would have it, the person they interviewed was my mother-in-law's lifelong nemesis. "Oh, that family. TSK, 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 that's all Zhao Chuanhua's doing," said Auntie Wang, the neighbor, pursing her lips and shaking her head. "Then again, her eldest daughter-in-law is no saint either. Could you elaborate on that, Auntie?" The blogger smelled a story and eagerly pressed for more details. So, Auntie Wang went ahead and spilled the beans about how my mother-in-law wanted Chen Kailai to carry on both family lines, and that wasn't all. She also revealed some things I had no idea about. For instance, long before we were even married, my sister-in-law had her eye on Chen Kailai. It was she who planted the idea of him inheriting both branches in my mother-in-law's ear. Auntie Wang even went so far as to speculate that my elder brother-in-law was slowly poisoned to death by his own wife. Since she was a child, sister-in-law has been digging up medicinal herbs to sell, and she can identify even more varieties than some pharmacists at the drugstores. In no time, 2 more trending hashtags popped up: inheriting both family lines and poisoning a man. However, the poisoning allegation lost traction quickly, with the elder brother-in-law cremated. There was no evidence, and the authorities were swift to suppress the topic. It was soon buried under other trending news, but some people kept stumbling upon it. After submitting all the evidence to the lawyer I had already lined up, I filed for divorce the very next morning when I opened my eyes. However, my lawyer told me not to get my hopes up, explaining that the law doesn't recognize the concept of leaving with nothing unless the man voluntarily gives everything up. To be honest, I wasn't really counting on it. I got my parents' house back, and now that it's been split in half, it's enough to cover the mortgage I've paid all these years. As for the rest, I'll just consider it the cost of cutting my losses and moving on. I never want to die again. I just never imagined there could be a turn for the better. After sorting everything out with the lawyer, I turned on my regular phone. There were hundreds of missed calls and messages. I barely had time to see that the missed calls were from Chen Kailai and my mother-in-law, let alone check who else had called. Before Chen Kailai's number lit up my screen again, I was just scrolling through my messages when my finger accidentally hit the answer button. His voice was frantic. "Honey, I was wrong. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness right now, but please believe me, I really just want to end things with her. And what about the child she's carrying?" The moment I spoke, Chen Kailai fell silent on the other end. When I didn't reply, after a long pause, he asked in a hoarse voice, "So, you want a divorce?" "Yes." "Okay." He acknowledged it with a single word and hung up the phone. I thought he was gearing up to sue me over the assets. Little did I know he would make that kind of choice. And almost the moment I hung up on Chen Kailai's call, my mother-in-law's phone call came through. Her attitude was completely different from Chen Kailai's. In a furious tone, "You worthless woman, it's bad enough you're a barren hen yourself, but how dare you stop Xuanli from carrying my Kailai's child?" I was so dumbfounded I actually laughed. "Do you even hear what you're saying? Jiangxi, listen to me. You go online right now and say it was all a misunderstanding, that you and Kailai have been divorced for a long time. Then you hand over the apartment your parents gave you, the one you're living in now, and 3 years' worth of the shop's dividends to us. Then we can consider this matter closed. Otherwise, I'll go live and tell everyone about your outrageous dowry demands." Outrageous dowry. I laughed again. "You mean the 88,000 your family gave me? You got married 3 years ago. Wasn't 88,000 a huge amount back then?" "Well, my parents gave us an apartment as my dowry. If you don't post that video, I'll tell everyone you took 880,000. It was cash. After all, no one knows how much you really got." I recorded this. After I said this in a low, firm voice, all I could hear from my mother-in-law's end was heavy, ragged breathing. A long silence followed. Just as I was about to hang up, her tone suddenly softened. "I know you can't bear to let my Kailai go. A girl from a no-name college running a beauty salon. You were lucky to land someone as outstanding as him in the first place. Alright, here's the deal. You make a video to settle this matter first. Afterwards, I'll make Kai break things off with your sister-in-law. You'll still be Kai's wife." It seems a lot of mothers have this built-in filter, blindly convinced their child is so exceptional that no one is good enough for them. My mother-in-law has taken it to a whole new level of delusion. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her anymore, so I just hung up and blocked her number. Only then did I get a chance to check my WeChat messages, but the first message wasn't from Chen Kailai, it was from my sister-in-law, Wu Xuanli. "Jiangxi, you bitch, you killed my child and ruined my life with Kailai. I'm going to end you." I called a friend after reading just that one message. It was the provincial hospital that came to take them away, and as it happens, a friend of mine works there. I only found out after asking. Turns out, because Chen Kailai and Wu Xuanli were fooling around recklessly, they ended up losing the baby who was only 3 months along. But I just took it as Wu Xuanli venting in anger and didn't pay her any mind. Before I knew it, the day of the court hearing had arrived. Chen Kailai, whom I hadn't seen in a long time, looked utterly dejected. He was unshaven and had lost a significant amount of weight. He came alone, without even bringing a lawyer. He readily admitted to his infidelity. In fact, he volunteered to leave the marriage with nothing, not even waiting for my lawyer to bring up the division of assets. This move left not just me, but even the judge, stunned, with no complications between us. The subsequent divorce proceedings went very quickly. On the day I received the divorce certificate, Chen Kai stopped me. He bowed deeply to me and said, "I'm sorry, 1111, I never meant to hurt you. This apology is nowhere near enough to make up for my past life being taken from me, but we live in a society governed by law. I can't just kill him. Besides, I don't want to be trapped in the shadow of my past life. I want to move forward and live a better life." The moment I turned around, I saw Wu Xuanli in her overcoat striding toward me, her pace quickening with each step as she hurled curses my way. "Jiangxi, you bitch, it's all your fault. If it weren't for you, Kai Lai wouldn't have been left with nothing, my mother-in-law wouldn't blame me, and the villagers wouldn't be pointing fingers at me. And to think I once believed we could coexist peacefully, even with the shared inheritance arrangement. I should have slipped you some of that poison I gave Chen Kai-shen." By the time I realized something was wrong, Wu Xuanli had drawn her hand from her coat, revealing a cleaver that she swung straight for my neck. It was the first time I truly understood how fear can paralyze a person. Thankfully, just in the nick of time, someone shoved me out of the way, but moments later, he collapsed right in front of me, clutching his neck. Chen Kailai was dead. Wu Xuanli was sentenced to life imprisonment for intentional homicide. My mother-in-law has gone mad. She comes to my place every day to make a scene. It was Chen Qiong who took her away by force. I thought the child would resent me, but when he saw me, he gave me a kind smile for the first time ever. He even said that with him around, my mother-in-law wouldn't be able to bother me anymore. In return, I anonymously funded his education, and once the dust had settled, I suddenly had a dream that was completely different from the one where Chen Kailai incited Chen Gong to kill me. In the dream, after I died, Chen Kailai was utterly grief-stricken and nearly strangled Chen Gong, after the nurse reported him to the police. He was sentenced to several years for intentional assault. After his release, he sold the house, and Wu Xuanli and Chen Gong were thrown out on the street. Yet, he quietly left the money from the house sale, along with the deed to the property my parents had given as a dowry, at my parents' doorstep. Then, wearing the first dress he ever gave me, she hanged herself at the entrance of the country villa. It finally sank in. I had truly come back from the dead. Not only that, I had been reborn on the very day my elder brother-in-law passed away, but once I came to my senses, I realized none of it really mattered. Having died once, I've learned to let go. Better to live free and easy than toil like a beast of burden. I immediately booked a flight to Dali, a place my mom had been talking about for ages. But I was always too busy before and never had the time to take them. In a past life, I even caused them the grief of losing a child in their old age. Fortunately, this time, I have a chance to make it right. Story 2. In the 5th year of my marriage to Ji Yu Cheng, the girl he kept in the hotel was exposed and everyone knew about it. In order to prevent her from being labeled as a mistress, Ji Yu Cheng came to me with a divorce agreement and said, "Teacher Jian helped me in the past, before he died. He asked me to take good care of Jianxi. Now that such a thing has been exposed, I can't ignore it. In these years, Jianxi has always been Ji Yu Cheng's first choice. When I heard this in my previous life, I collapsed and made a big fuss, and I never wanted to divorce, until I got severe depression." Ji Yu Cheng concluded that I was pretending to be sick because of Jianxi's words. "Sister doesn't look sick." He thought I was playing hard to get and framed me for cheating, and directly filed for divorce. Only then did I realize that I could never compare to a favor of knowing me, and I committed suicide in despair. Opened my eyes again. I signed the divorce agreement without hesitation. "Chu Tang, after this matter is over, can we remarry?" In the villa compound, when I was sitting on a stone bench in a daze, Ji Yu Han brought Jianxi to me. Just 3 hours ago, Jianxi was exposed by paparazzi as Ji Yu Han's lover. The whole network was digging up her past, scolding her as a mistress who intervened in the sweet love between Ji Yu Han and me. Ji Yu Han's image as a loving wife collapsed, and the stock price of Ji Yu Group began to fluctuate. In the previous life, when Ji Yu Han came to me with a divorce agreement, I hated to pull out all the roses he raised for me in the yard, and hysterically questioned his relationship with Jianxi. Obviously, she was just the daughter of my mentor, and there were thousands of ways to solve it, but he chose to sacrifice me. Just because he didn't want Jianxi's depression to worsen. But what Ji Yu-han didn't know was that during the time when the hot search was fermenting, I was also diagnosed with moderate depression. Chu Tang, Ji Yu-han called me again, pulling me back from my trance. I lowered my eyes and set my gaze on the divorce agreement on the stone table. He knelt on one knee at my feet, looking at me with a pair of deep eyes, and wrapped my hand with his burning palm. His tone was coaxing. Chu Tang, just think of it as for me, okay? We announced to the public that our marriage has long been in name only. We had planned to divorce a year ago, but we just didn't find the right time. I hesitated to speak. Behind him, she was wearing a white dress, with Ji Yu-han's coat on her shoulders. Her lips were pale, and her eyes were red. Sister Chu Tang, please help me. Okay, my mother committed suicide due to depression caused by online bullying. I don't want to follow my mother's old path. Sister, I kneel down for you. Please help me. When she was about to bend down and kneel down, Ji Yu-han stood up very quickly, supported her, and held her in his arms with familiarity. His face was ugly, and he whispered, "What are you doing?" She choked for a while. Her voice was weak and crying. And then she closed her tearful eyes. I just want to make my sister feel better." Ji Yu-han's eyebrows were immediately filled with impatience. He looked at me, and the original tenderness completely faded. "Chu Tang, I didn't come to you to discuss it with you. I have decided on this matter. If you don't want to leave, don't blame me." I raised my eyes lightly to meet his gaze, and his subsequent words stopped abruptly, but I knew what he was going to say. He wanted to say, "Chu Tang, you know my methods. I have thousands of ways to make you sign obediently. If you have to file for divorce, you will never win over Gu's lawyers." These were his original words in the previous life. Later, I was sent to the bed of several male models by design, and the evidence of cheating was set in stone. Overnight, I became a slut who had an affair with her husband and suffered from public opinion, and he and she became innocent victims. "I can sign, but you have to promise me one thing." After a long time, I said. Ji Yu-han looked up at me and nodded in agreement. He handed me a pen, and after I took it, I signed my name on the divorce agreement without any ripples. "Don't you want to look at the agreement again?" Ji Yu-han frowned and asked me. I smiled. "No need." He almost left the house with nothing and gave me all his property, just for Shi, to repay a favor. "Take time to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow." "Okay," I said. Ji Yu-han's hand holding the divorce agreement paused slightly, and he looked at me with a bit of confusion in his eyes, but in the end he said nothing. When they left, she looked back at me sarcastically, and her thin lips silently opened and closed. "You lost." "I did lose. I lost my whole life, so I don't want to lose now." After a while, my phone interface lit up, and it was a message from Ji Yu-han. "I'm sorry for what happened today, Chu Tang. After this matter is over, I will give you a grand wedding banquet again, and we will remarry. I can't watch Shi's depression worsen. You can understand me, right?" I looked at this sentence and couldn't help laughing. With tears in the corners of my eyes, it was the same in the last life. In order to force me to divorce, Ji Yu-han found his friends to come up with a plan and got drunk, but he forgot that his friends are also my friends. Jiang Yuan tried his best to persuade Ji Yu-han not to sacrifice his marriage for Shi. He also tried to mediate with me, asking me to understand Ji Yu-han, saying that Ji Yu-han was a man of friendship. If Shi's father hadn't seen Ji Yu-han's ability, invested in him, and helped him start a business, Ji Yu-han wouldn't be where he is today. At that time, I cried and retorted, "Ji Yu-han can have thousands of ways to clarify this matter. Why must we divorce?" Jiang Yuan was silent. He asked Ji Yu-han, and Ji Yu-han replied at that time, "I have to let someone down. I can only let a Tang down. She loves me and can understand me, because I love him. So I sacrificed myself. What's the reason? Fortunately, I still have a chance, as long as it's about Shi." Ji Yu-han always handles it very quickly. He just signed the divorce agreement with me during the day, and arranged a press conference in the evening, and asked his assistant to invite me to attend the clarification. I haven't spoken yet. The assistant thought I was going to refuse. So fortunately he told me what Ji Yu-han asked him to bring. He said, "Ms. Chu Tang, you should attend this press conference, even if it's not for Mr. Yu, it's for your reputation." I was stunned for a second, and finally sneered. Ji Yu-han was threatening me. He tried to use the means he used against me in his previous life to force me to compromise, throw dirty water on me, and let me struggle under public opinion. In the end, I could only bend down and bow my head. I have never figured out whether Ji Yuhan treats me as his wife or as an enemy. Now he wants to publicly clarify his relationship with me. I am no exception. The press conference was arranged in the lobby of the most luxurious hotel in northern Beijing, and the most influential reporters in the industry were invited to attend. When Jian Shi appeared in a cheongsam with Ji Yuhan on her arm, reporters swarmed over in an instant. Ji Yuhan subconsciously protected Jian Shi behind him and smiled to block the microphone for her. "I will answer your questions one by one later. Please make way for me now." "Okay," he said in a gentle voice, and when he looked up, he happened to see me, who was also surrounded by reporters. When our eyes met, I was still looking forward to Ji Yuhan being able to help me out, but the next second, he moved his eyes away lightly, with a smile on his lips, and walked to the stage with Jian Shi. As if he had never seen me, I curled my lips sarcastically. The reporter closest to me was probably an intern, who timidly handed me the microphone and asked, "Ms. Chu Tang, are you really divorced from Mr. Ji Yu?" "Yes," I smiled and nodded in answer. The intern pushed his glasses. "But you and Mr. Ji Yu met in high school, dated for 7 years, and married for 5 years. Mr. Ji Yu spent a lot of money to buy an island for you last month and named it after you." I was still smiling, but the smile did not reach my eyes. "He owes me that. In order to take care of the sick Jian Shi, he missed my birthday and gave me a gift." In my previous life, I was still complacent about this matter, but later I found out that this idea was from Jiang Yuan, and this island was chosen by assistant Ji Yuhan, and he didn't even know where the island was. "Do you still love Mr. Ji Yu now?" She looked at me nervously, and the reporters surrounding me also quieted down, including Ji Yuhan on the stage. His brows were slightly frowned, and I just looked at him calmly and said with curved lips, "No more love." I didn't stay until the end of the interview. After Ji Yuhan clarified that his marriage with me had been in name only a year ago, he left, overnight. I became a second-hand commodity that Ji Yuhan didn't want, and Jian Shi became the only innocent victim in this public opinion. The interview that day was pinned on the social platform for several days, and the topic has not diminished. Especially the words that Ji Yuhan said. "Chu Tang and I had planned to divorce a year ago, but the time was not right. We originally wanted to handle it in a low-key manner, but now it has affected innocent people, so we have to clarify it publicly. Miss Jian Shi is not the intruder in the breakdown of our relationship. She is my teacher's only concern in this world. It is understandable that I take care of her more. I hope everyone will look at this matter rationally." Some fans were guided to say that the reason for the breakdown of my relationship with Ji Yuhan was that I could not tolerate any sand in my eyes and thought that their pure brother-sister friendship and so-called kindness were dirty. They also said that I was petty and not generous enough. After 5 years of marriage, I didn't learn Ji Yuhan's loyalty. The topic fermented for several days. I became the target of public criticism after receiving the divorce certificate. I came out of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Ji Yuhan stopped me and said, "Don't take what is said online to heart. It won't be long before everyone forgets it." I stopped and couldn't help but chuckle. How come there is such a big difference when being abused on the same social platform? Chu Tang. The Chinese New Year will come in 2 months. Wait until the beginning of next year, and we will get remarried, okay? He looked at me and was about to approach me when I took a step back and moved my eyes indifferently to the reporter who was blocked by the bodyguard not far away. Ji Yuhan seemed to realize that something was wrong and stopped where he was. "Ji Yuhan, I'm going back to Hong Kong City. You really haven't been back for a long time. It's good to go back. I'll pick you up after the Chinese New Year." "Not coming back," I interrupted Ji Yuhan calmly. His faint smile froze on his face, and there was a bit of confusion in his eyes. I said again, "I agreed to sign the divorce agreement. You promised me something. Now it's time to fulfill it." Ji Yuhan looked at me in a daze. When I was reborn, I took a few seconds to digest my love and hatred for Ji Yuhan. The moment I saw the divorce agreement, I thought about tearing it up and making a scene with him again. But in the end, reason prevailed. After a long time, I smiled with my lips curved. "Ji Yuhan, I hope you will never appear in front of me again. When Chu Tang finished speaking with a smile and retreated into the crowd, Ji Yuhan was slow to react. For a moment, he felt an inexplicable panic, as if he was about to lose the most important thing. Just like that day when Chu Tang calmly signed the divorce agreement, she felt uneasy in her heart. She didn't make a fuss, as if she had anticipated all the endings, but Chu Tang was still making a fuss about him forgetting her birthday a while ago. And he even got slapped by Chu Tang. He thought he had filed a fake divorce. Chu Tang would go crazy and make trouble with him, and he was even ready to deal with it. But she didn't. She picked up the pen. Her expression was as calm as a pool of stagnant water. At that moment, he had the idea of stopping Chu Tang. But in the end he did nothing. He thought, it doesn't matter, Chu Tang loves him very much. They are just a fake divorce, and he will compensate her well in the future. But Jianxi is different. She can't be hurt because of him. If it weren't for Jianxi's father's appreciation of his talent, he risked being kicked out of the shareholders' meeting and decided to invest in his project, take him to grow up, and become a new noble in Beijing. He wouldn't have achieved what he has today. He is not worthy of Jianxi. Before Jianxi's father died, he hoped that he would protect Jianxi's life and health, and he didn't want to be a treacherous villain. Jiang Yuan asked him, if one day, Jianxi and Chu Tang fell off the cliff at the same time, who would you save? At that time, he laughed and felt that this question was too low level. He would save Jianxi, but he would die with Chu Tang. Jiang Yuan laughed with him, but he asked himself, what if Chu Tang doesn't want to die? Ji Yuhan, you can't take advantage of Chu Tang's love for you and always wrong her. If she can't feel your love, she will be desperate. That day he didn't take it seriously. He never took this sentence to heart. Unexpectedly, it finally came true. At night, Ji Yuhan went back to the villa. Since marrying him, Chu Tang has been living in the villa halfway up the mountain. She is an outstanding painter. At the age of 10, she was crowned as a talented young painter for a landscape painting that transcended the mundane. Everyone thought that she had extraordinary attainments in Chinese painting and would become a leader in this industry, and later it was true, but after marriage, Chu Tang's painting style changed and was no longer the same as before. Chu Tang's teacher tried to enlighten her with heart, but the effect was not significant. Later, Chu Tang gave up painting and even resisted picking up the brush. Ji Yuhan walked into Chu Tang's studio when he saw the landscape painting on the drawing board. He was stunned for a moment. It was vivid with just a few strokes. When Chen Ma saw the lights in the studio were on, she came over and saw Ji Yuhan, and was slightly surprised. Sir, Ji Yuhan looked up. When did Madam paint this? Chen Ma replied, the day you came back with Miss Jen. Ji Yuhan nodded, curled his lips to smile, but couldn't smile. After leaving the studio, he returned to his room with Chu Tang. He had told himself countless times that he and Chu Tang were just fake divorces. As long as the storm was over, he would propose to Chu Tang again and give her a grand wedding banquet. But somehow, his heart was always empty. He regarded Chu Tang's words today as her nonsense when she was angry. There was Chu Tang in his home in Jingbei. How could she not come back? Knock knock. The door of the master bedroom was suddenly knocked, and Ji Yuhan, who was sitting at the end of the bed, raised his head. It was Jianxi. She was wearing thin clothes. Her face was slightly ruddy. She stood at the door of the room, quietly looking at Ji Yuhan. Why are you here? Jianxi pursed her lips. I was scared to stay alone in the hotel, so I came to find you. Is it? She said, lowering her eyes. Sorry to bother you. Ji Yuhan frowned slightly, but still said, it's okay, it's a little late today. I'll ask Aunt Chen to clean up a guest room for you. You stay first. When he was about to call Aunt Chen, Jianxi took a step and walked into the room. Looking at Ji Yuhan with a pair of tender eyes. Brother Han, I don't want to stay in the guest room. Is it okay? She whispered. Ji Yuhan frowned deeper. His thin lips opened and closed to refuse, but met her slightly red eyes. He still softened his heart. When the plane landed in Hong Kong City, it was Senator Chu who came to pick me up. When he was 18, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for saving a girl but was accused of sexual assault because of his criminal record. No company was willing to take him in. I met him at an art exhibition. He never communicated with others and always kept his eyes down. When others approached him, he would only retreat timidly. Later, one night, I met a gangster on my way home. When I was almost assaulted, he happened to pass by. I thought he would treat me coldly, but no, he barely hesitated for a moment. That day, I asked him, "What if I bite back?" He smiled bitterly. "Then I'll admit it." I used the power of my family to clear his grievances. The truth came out that day. He stood in the distance, looking at me with red eyes across the crowd, and bowed to thank me. 3 years in prison did not wipe out his kindness. My father also offered him an olive branch because he saved me and arranged for him to join the group, starting from the grassroots. Now, he is my father's most capable assistant. "Miss, long time no see," Senta Chu, wearing a windbreaker, took my suitcase. I nodded. And my nose was inexplicably sour. 5 years ago, after I married Ji Han, I accompanied him to the north. When I got into trouble in my previous life, he was arranged by my father to go to Country A for close training. I never saw Senta Chu again until I died. "Miss, after you come back this time, will you leave?" he asked me. I said, "No." Senta Chu laughed. "Mr. Chu is very happy to know that you are back." Suddenly, I was stunned for a moment, and my hands in my pockets tightened involuntarily. And my heart was stained with a trace of bitterness. At that time, my divorce with Ji Han was known to everyone. My father was afraid that I would be wronged, so he flew from Gangcheng to Jingbei overnight. He advised me earnestly, "Ji Han is always unclear about what he does." Back then, he would rather cooperate with the old man of the Gen family than accept your help. To put it nicely, he didn't want to rely on you. To put it bluntly, he relied on the investment of the Gen family. Didn't he rely on it? "Xiaotang, we can divorce. Ji Han is not suitable for you." He wanted to take me back to Gangcheng, but I didn't want to, and cried and made a fuss to stay. I said with tears in my eyes, "I love Ji Han. I don't want to divorce. Why should I sacrifice myself to fulfill his kindness? Even if he forces me to death, I will never leave. I won't leave." In the end, my father was so angry with me that he had a heart attack and went to the ICU. He was not allowed to leave several times. Overnight, my mother's hair turned white. Later, my father woke up and said nothing, but I knew that he was disappointed in me. Before she died, my mother was still persuading me, "Your father has never interfered with any of your decisions in these years. But Ji Han is not a good man." At that time, I couldn't listen to anything and insisted on hitting the wall. In the end, I figured it out at the cost of my life. I am not that important to Ji Han. "Are they all okay?" I asked Senta Chu. Senta Chu nodded. "The group is developing very well, and Mr. Chu and his wife are also in good health." I smiled and looked into his cold eyes. "Thank you, Senta Chu. Thank you for being filial on my behalf." Senta Chu shook his head. He said that this was what he should do. If my father and I hadn't helped him, he might have died in a corner. The hot topics on social platforms are still endless, from she being Ji Han's mistress. Now it has evolved into me being a heartless and ungrateful person. Yesterday, a paparazzi took a photo of me and Senta Chu at the airport, and now it is said that I had cheated a long time ago, so the relationship with Ji Han broke down. I couldn't help laughing, and when I lowered my eyes, the interface of my phone was a photo sent by she using a small account, photos of her staying overnight in a villa on the mountainside. Ji Han took the initiative to let me stay overnight last night. What do you think Ji Han will do tonight? Ji Han is a person with a strong sense of responsibility. Now the shackles are gone. "Chu Tang, your husband is mine." She tried to provoke me, but my heart was already calm. Senta Chu poured me a cup of tea, glanced at my phone interface with concern, and said in a deep voice, "Miss, I will get back all the grievances you have suffered." I didn't answer him, but asked, "I heard that my father introduced you to many famous ladies, intending to let you get married. Why did you refuse?" Senta Chu seemed to have not expected me to ask this question, lowered his eyes, and stroked the rim of the teacup with his fingertips. After a long silence, I asked again, "Because of me?" He suddenly looked up, and when he met my gaze, he hid his guilty conscience and avoided it. In the past 5 years, although Senta Chu and I have never met, every birthday of mine, he must have a generous gift from me, spending a lot of money. From time to time, he transferred money to my account. He gave me almost all his earnings. I refused many times, but he was still persistent. Later, I called him and got angry with him for the first time. I said, "Senta Chu, you saved me once, and I helped you once. So we're even. It was your father who let you join the group. And you got to where you are today because of yourself. You don't owe me anything, and I'm not your creditor. Doing this will only destroy my marriage and make Ji Yuhan misunderstand the relationship between you and me. After that, Center Chu stopped transferring money to me. Gifts were only given in moderation. Center Chu, I said you don't owe me anything. As soon as I finished speaking, Center Chu pursed his lips and said, "No, what?" He looked at me, curled his lips slightly. With a faint smile on his face and love in his eyes, "I like the young lady. I know there is a world of difference between me and the young lady. I have never expected the young lady to look back at me, but my heart belongs to the young lady. I don't want to deceive myself, nor do I want to delay others." After Center Chu finished speaking, I raised my eyes and looked at him quietly. He is the same age as me, but he is much more mature than me. When I first saw him, he was timid and out of place. Now he has become the pillar of the group and the person my father values most. When I returned to the old house last night, my father talked to me for a long time, talking about the future of the group and my future. Finally, he asked me 2 more questions. The first one was, "Do you still like Ji Yuhan?" I shook my head and gave a negative answer, but for the second question, I was silent. He asked me, "Are you willing to marry Center Chu? My father has planned to retire." Although Center Chu has been with my father for many years, he is not a member of the Chu family. I was a little confused at first, but now I have an answer. "Center Chu, are you willing to marry me?" 2 days later in Beijing, Ji Yuhan sat in the studio, looking down at Chu Tang accepting the interview of the intern that day. The intern asked her curiously, "Do you still love Mr. Ji Yu now?" Chu Tang smiled and replied, "No." These 3 simple words made him inexplicably depressed. He played this clip countless times, and tried to find something from Chu Tang's eyes. In the end, nothing came of it. He irritably opened the chat box with Chu Tang, but when he opened it, he found that the last message stopped at the one where he reminded her to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get the divorce certificate at 9 o'clock, and she replied him with her okay. Then there was nothing. In the past, Chu Tang liked to stick to him, and would share with him at any time, no matter big or small. And he would respond promptly after seeing it. He flipped through the records. Later, Chu Tang often talked to himself. Occasionally, he just took the time to reply with a "okay" or "I know." The group was very busy with work. She suffered from depression again after the death of teacher Jian, and she threatened to commit suicide again and again. He couldn't take care of it at all. Suddenly, Jiang Yuan popped up a message. "Chu Tang is going to marry Center Chu." Ji Yuhan stood up suddenly and accidentally knocked over the easel next to him. The landscape painting fell to the ground. When he hurried to pick it up, a case report was pressed under the drawing board. He was stunned for 2 seconds, and when he finished reading all the contents, his fingertips trembled slightly. "The patient has severe mood swings, repeated suicidal thoughts, and severe sleep disorders. It is judged that the patient has a tendency to moderate depression." The date at the end is the day he asked Chu Tang for a fake divorce. "Brother Ahan, what happened?" After hearing the noise, She hurriedly ran from the master bedroom to the studio. When she saw the diagnosis record in Ji Yuhan's hand, calculation flashed through her eyes. "Can I take a look at this case?" She asked in a low voice. Ji Yuhan said nothing, but his heart ached again and again. She took the medical record, flipped through a few pages, pretended to be relieved, patted Ji Yuhan on the shoulder, and comforted him. "Brother Han, don't worry. Brother, have you forgotten? I am also a patient with depression. You have seen what it is like when it is on the attack. I saw my sister that day. She was so healthy and didn't look sick at all. My sister might be too angry. So she took a fake medical record to deceive you." She looked at Ji Yuhan. When she was about to continue speaking, Ji Yuhan suppressed his inner emotions and took the medical record from her. Just after taking 2 steps, he thought of something and turned back to say to her, "Don't live in the master bedroom after tomorrow. Chu Tang will make a fuss again when he knows." After saying that, she was stunned. When she reacted and chased him out, Brother Han, Ji Yuhan had already gone downstairs, in such a hurry that he didn't even take his coat. No matter whether the medical record is true or false, no matter whether Chu Tang is going to marry Center Chu, at this moment, his only thought was to meet Chu Tang and take her home. Center Chu attached great importance to my wedding and watched every detail himself. During the day, he went to the company and the wedding scene. At night, he sat in the living room and wrote the invitations stroke by stroke. Center Chu, just let the assistant arrange these things. You are already very tired at work, so there is no need to spend more time on this. I stood at the stairs holding a cup and said to Center Chu in the living room. He put down the pen and smiled at me with curved lips. No matter what, I want to give the lady the best. I know that the lady may not have me in her heart, but I put the lady at the top of my heart. The moment I met his eyes, I was in a trance for a moment, and my heart moved for a long time. Miss, don't feel any burden. Just be a beautiful bride. Center Chu still smiled, looking at me with emotions in his eyes. Finally, I smiled and nodded, but I didn't expect that Ji Yu Han would find Gang Cheng. Center Chu and I had just come out of the wedding dress fittings when we saw Ji Yu Han standing under the camphor tree opposite. He was wearing a simple white shirt, his hair was messy, his face was slightly pale, and there was no light in his eyes. His eyes fell on the hands of Center Chu and I for a moment, then moved away. Ji Yu Han forced a smile and looked at me. Chu Tang, I'm here to take you home. Let's not wait until the beginning of next year. Let's go back and remarry now, okay? As soon as he finished speaking, he took a few steps towards us. Center Chu subconsciously wanted to stand in front of me, but I stopped him. While straightening his crooked tie, I said softly, wait for me in the car first. I'll be back soon. Mom made your favorite food tonight. Let's go home together later. Center Chu lowered his eyes to look at me, the corners of his lips slightly raised, and responded, okay. Finally, after a faint glance at Ji Yu Han, he walked towards the garage. At this time, only Ji Yu Han and I were left on the roadside. He subconsciously wanted to get closer to me. I took a few steps back calmly and said softly, Mr. Ji Yu, let's keep some distance between us, otherwise we will be photographed by paparazzi later. It's time for some rumors on social platforms that I deliberately entangled with my ex-husband. No matter what time, people are always particularly harsh on women. The incident with Jen Shi is a good example. It was Ji Yu Han who couldn't weigh it clearly from beginning to end. And in the end it was me who was not generous enough. Chu Tang, Ji Yu Han's eyes were dim, and the bitter smile did not reach his eyes. I have asked my assistant to deal with the things on the platform. I'm sorry that you have been wronged. I didn't know you were in so much trouble. I didn't know, Ji Yu Han. You know, I looked at him and said in a light tone, if he didn't know that public opinion would make people painful and depressed, he would not prefer to divorce me to help Jen Shi. In my last life, I was framed for having affairs with multiple male models. After being sentenced to divorce from Ji Yu Han, I became infamous and my career plummeted. Everyone was laughing at me. Some even came to me and asked me, Chu Tang, you are so shameless after your ex-husband has done this to you. How dare you still live? If it were me, I would have jumped from the 18th floor, and Mrs. Ji Yu Han never took her seriously, otherwise how could he have killed her? Later, I suffered from insomnia every night, sitting by the French window and looking at the lights of thousands of houses. I burned the studio. I also burned all the things that Ji Yu Han had given me. As if I could dig Ji Yu Han out of my heart, I vented all the injustice. I hated why the boy who had always loved me would lead me to a dead end. In the end, I committed suicide by cutting my wrists. To this day, I still remember the feeling of blood draining from my body bit by bit. Ji Yu Han opened his mouth to explain, but when the words came to his lips, he couldn't say them. Finally, I could only bow my head helplessly. A Tang, I will make it up to you. I couldn't help laughing. I have heard this sentence too many times. After Jen Shi's father passed away, Ji Yu Han left the night of the engagement party. He said, Chu Tang, something happened to Jen Shi. I have to go and see. On the wedding day, Jen Shi threatened to commit suicide again. After he sent me back to the wedding room, he did not return for the whole night. At that time, I was shaken whether to continue this relationship. But seeing Ji Yu Han's tired look, I still endured it. I love Ji Yu Han. So I am willing to accompany him through all the hardships. Every missed appointment will eventually turn into a sentence. Chu Tang, I will make it up to you in the future. Ji Yu Han always thought that our life was long, but he forgot that love will be consumed. At the end of the last life, I can no longer tell whether I love Ji Yu Han or am obsessed with him. After a while, I said sarcastically, Ji Han, actually I have very little to ask for, but you still don't care about me. I am also the baby that my parents love, why should you trample on me like this? So forget it. After the words fell, I retracted my gaze, and when I turned sideways and was about to leave, Ji Han grabbed my arm in panic. His tall body almost stumbled and fell, and his pale lips opened and closed. I don't agree, you can't just let it go, Chu Tang. You are my wife, you can't leave me. The last tone trembled. I laughed and pulled my hand away. We are divorced, Ji Han. You forced me to sign the divorce agreement, threatened me to attend the press conference to clarify, and watched me go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a divorce certificate. You did all this. You can't deny it, right? Ji Han was speechless. I want to leave. When he wanted to catch up again, I raised my chin slightly in the direction behind him. Mr. Ji, you and Miss Jen are actually quite a good match. Ji Han's face instantly lost color. He arrived at Hongcheng in the early morning. After his assistant checked Chu Tang's schedule, he came to see her without a break, but when he saw her wearing a wedding dress and laughing and joking with Senta Chu, he gradually stopped and stood under the camphor tree and watched in a daze. I don't know since when, he seemed to rarely see Chu Tang laughing so happily. Whenever they met, they would quarrel because of Jian Shi. Slowly, he no longer went home often, either staying at the company or staying out all night with Jiang Yuan and others. So at that moment, he clearly understood. What Chu Tang said that day at the Civil Affairs Bureau was from the heart. She didn't want him anymore, but he couldn't live without her. He stood outside for as long as the two people in the bridal shop were busy. He even thought about rushing in and beating Senta Chu up, warning him, don't covet my wife. But in the end he still couldn't take that step. He was afraid that Jian Shi would hate him. Brother Han, my sister has been gone for a long time. Jian Shi tugged at Ji Han's clothes and pulled Ji Han back from his trance. He lowered his eyes and looked at her, his voice a little hoarse. Why are you here? I heard that my sister is going to marry someone else. I'm afraid you'll be sad, so I came to see you, she said softly, and when she was about to hug Ji Han frowned and reached out to press Jian Shi's shoulders. For a moment, her eyes were moist. Brother Han, sister doesn't want you, I want you, let's get married too, okay? Ji Han had never refused any of her requests. She thought that after Chu Tang divorced him, she would be able to successfully take over the position of Mrs. Ji. But at this moment, Ji Han's face suddenly turned cold. Jian Shi, do you know what you are saying? I know, Ji Han, I like you. This was the first time she spoke her mind directly. But Ji Han smiled palely, and then started crying. Jian Yuan had advised him countless times. Jian Shi looks at you with restless eyes. If you don't want your marriage to be ruined, I advise you to send her away. Ji Han, you are the one who is confused and can't see clearly what Jian Shi thinks of you. Send Jian Shi away, don't let her ruin your marriage. But he never believed it once. It really deserves it. Hong Kong is far away from Beijing North, but once something is posted on the social platform, it will ferment quickly. The third day that Ji Han pestered me, Senta Chu sent the evidence of Jian Shi's falsified medical records to Ji Han's email, and listed the evidence of Ji Han's countless missed appointments with me for Jian Shi over the years, forming a closed loop, and published it online. Overnight, public opinion was polarized. But none of it had anything to do with me. Some said that Jian Shi was seeking revenge and destroying my marriage with Ji Han, which led to the breakdown of our relationship. Others said that Ji Han was hypocritical. If he really wanted to repay the kindness of Jian Shi's father, wouldn't it be enough to take money and resources? He had to bully his own wife and force her to divorce out of frustration. Ji Han's reputation was damaged. The group's stock was volatile. Not long after, I accidentally found Jian Shi's self-directed and self-acted photos, hired people to take photos of her and Ji Han entering and leaving the hotel at the same time, and hired internet users to call her a mistress. The social platform was in chaos. Ji Han was also very busy. He wanted to send Jian Shi abroad, but after seeing this topic, he almost strangled Jian Shi to death on the roadside. He asked Jian Shi, "Why do you do this?" Jian Shi wanted to play the emotional card at first, until she was strangled to the point of almost suffocating. She suddenly laughed crazily and admitted it openly. "I just want to be Mrs. Ji-yu, and I just want to force Chu-tang to divorce you. Ji-yu-han, if you really love Chu-tang, I can't get any loopholes. Ji-yu-han was so angry that he vomited a pool of blood and fainted on the spot. The video was filmed by passers-by and reposted wildly on the internet. Gu's stock price went down all the way. After waking up, Ji-yu-han became unconscious and was kicked out of the position of president. And Jian Shi, now she is notorious and has to go abroad. It's just unfortunate. She had a car accident on the way to the plane and died on the spot. On the wedding day, Senator Chu gave me a grand wedding, with flowers all over the city and fireworks all night long, and everyone knew about it. When a guest teased that I married Senator Chu because I had earned a lot in my previous life, Senator Chu sneered and asked him to leave the wedding directly. He also said frankly after taking the oath, I am the son-in-law of the Chu family. I am a member of the Chu family in this life, and I will be a ghost of the Chu family after death. Senator Chu knew that I might not be completely in his heart, but he treated me well and never changed. On the wedding night, he hugged me tightly, as if he was afraid that I would leave and disappear. I didn't know until I asked him. Ji-yu-han committed suicide. Before he died, he was sober for a while, and he sent the case report I left in the studio to Senator Chu. He also wrote me a letter. The letter was very long, every word was full of shame for me. He also talked about a nightmare he had. In the dream, he forced me to divorce. I refused to compromise. So he framed me and sent me to the beds of several men. In the end, I was so desperate that I cut my wrists and committed suicide. He said that he didn't mean to do that in the dream. He just wanted me to compromise and bend over. He didn't think that he would make me desperate to death. I didn't know that I was really sick. He said that if he knew, he would never do that to me. When he saw the bathroom full of blood, his heart was broken, and he wished that he was the one who died. The letter ended with a sentence, fortunately, the things in the dream did not happen. There was another sentence, I'm sorry, I sneered. Finally, I threw the letter into the trash can. Along with the case report, Miss, Senator Chu frowned slightly. I whispered, the former Chu-tang was sick, but I am not the former Chu-tang. After leaving him, the disease is cured. After a long time, Senator Chu smiled helplessly and dotingly. I looked at him and smiled too. Fortunately, I have nothing to lose in this life.